Alright, hey guys, it's MJMFan22 here, back for part 2 of the Blender track making tutorial. I don't even know what to call it. But last part I showed you how to download it. I've got a few comments saying that it worked for them, so that's good. If it didn't, again, don't hesitate to let me know. Any way I can help. So, we should be to this part. How you set it up to your liking is completely up to you. Again, this is how I do it. So let's delete this so it can look like yours. Alright, so yours will look like this. Basically, be a little different. But right click it, press your delete key on your computer, and left mouse click delete. You don't need it. You don't need a cube for any reason unless you're making a container, and we're not. So go down to the bottom left, add mesh plane, and so it's going to be pretty small. What I do is if I don't already have a stadium imported, then this is what I do. But at the end of the video, I'll show you how to get a whole stadium in here, and then from there you can do these steps. But if you don't have a stadium already, then just do this. So what I just did was click 7, and then I'm just going to scale it to whatever size. I mean, it doesn't really matter. And then now to rotate, you click in your middle mouse. So if you're on a laptop, you would need a secondary mouse to be able to do this. And so hold your middle mouse and you can go around whatever you want. So your view options, if you have a keypad, I don't really know, a number pad, 3 is whatever this view is, 1 is the next side, and then again you can hold control to do the opposite of those. And then 4 and 6 just go left and right, 8 goes up, 2 goes down, 7 is a top view, 5 is a perspective view, I never use that, and 9, I don't even know what 9 does, even though I just clicked it. And that's basically it. So I mean, 8 up, 2 down, 4 left, 6 right, 3 it's a side, I want to say, 1's a front, control 3 is the other side, control 1 is the back side, and then 7 for top. So hopefully got that down. Yeah, they come really useful. So let's hit and shift and middle mouse click, move like up and down, whatever, move your mouse around. So that's your moving. That's really all of it. And if you don't have the keypad, they have it under view and you can just click. So if I want the back, you can just click it. But I don't do that. But if it comes to you, there you go. And so we have a plane, and you're not going to do anything with a plane without a car unless your track doesn't have cars. But let's assume they do. Go to File on that top left and do Append. Now you're going to download the .blend file left in the description of the last video, and you're going to put it in a folder, because through Blender you can only open folders, and mine's in my documents under track making, and then cars. You can put yours, and then rocks cars, but you can put yours wherever you want. I don't really care. And then I have mine all separated into what they are. But in this example, we're going to use car. So you're going to see rockcar.blend. Double click on it. You have to go to object, and then double click on plane.004. And then here's your car. Now it's perfectly on the ground, and it'll come pink, but that's okay. So there's your car, perfectly how they come. Right click and press tab to go into edit mode, and then from here that you can smush it, whatever you want to do, but we're not going to do that yet. And then another really useful tool, actually, before I get into it, is if you right click a vert and then hover over the vert and click L, it highlights everything attached to that vert, so the whole object really. It's pretty nice. And then another thing is you press C and then scroll your mouse, and then that's your select, so left click to highlight, and then middle mouse button to deselect. So that's another really useful thing. And then B comes useful later on. It's a window, select, and then everything in that window it highlights. So that's most of the controls for now until you get into jumps. So again, press L or highlight it with C, whatever you want to do, and then pull in your UV image editor. And this is where you go into finding your texture. So image, open image, and I'm gonna go to my cars, Rock's car, and then let's just do white. So what's the difference? So in Blender, you've applied this texture, but you have not applied it as a material for exporting it. And usually I wait to the end to do that, and so I'll cover that near the end because I'm just going to do it step to step how I usually do it. But as of right now, you have your car textured in Blender. And then I'm going to do the same with this plane. So tab plane and then highlight every vert. Press 7, then press U and go down to unwrap project from view bounds. And now that's going to come up as a car, but then you just do open image, and then I'll go to my dirt check texture. And so there, now I have my plane is a dirt texture and my car is a car texture, and they're both in Blender, but they're not registered as a material yet, and we'll get to that, like I said, a different part. So from here, I mean, a car is easy to use. Tab, go to the side view, highlight everything, Shift D, and then Control right click, and then that copies it completely, and so you move it around. So let's just say you're making some type of pyramid or a step up or something, who knows. But if I'm doing this, I usually like to smush the car, and all I do to smush a car is put the top roof down and then smooth it down. And yeah, you could do it different ways. You could start moving all verts around, and if I do cars without a ramp up to it, I mean, I'll start selecting all these and dragging it, but I don't make it look ugly. You have to make it look really pretty realistic. But I mean, there's no really sense in that unless you're doing a custom track and trying to go old school with. Alright, so sorry guys, the recording cut out somewhere along these lines. So let's just say we're here again, and we got the car in game, in Blender, and we're back to here. So tab this, and we're gonna start creating our first jump. Shift D, and then S to scale it down to our car. And I like to go a little bit over, not too much. Oh, another good trick is press S and middle mouse click, and then you see those red lines, so I could scale it this way. Click it again, I could scale it this way, and then some for other, if you highlight something like something that's higher, you can scale it up and down on the different axis. So alright, this is the scale of the car width-wise. So I'm not going to make a jump with a car. If you want to, I mean, same principles. So the car's kind of used for height now. So let's say we want to make a racing jump. I mean, pretty simple, not too tall. Got a good long curve to it. And so we're going to make the jump. And here's a rule about this. About these. First, my bad, you press R. No, not R. You press Control R and then hover over the plane and you'll see a pink line. And the rule about these is if you do too many, it can cause lag, and if you don't do enough, you don't have enough detail. So I do it to where there's 5 planes or 4 pink lines. Now I wouldn't go less than 3. Well, I wouldn't really go to less than 4 because it just doesn't give enough detail and doesn't give enough curve to the ramp. But I really wouldn't go over 6 or 7 because then you start getting to lag and all those other issues, and then it's kind of like too much detail, but you can never really have too much detail. Let's face it. So you left click, and then you can move it around if you really want to, but I just right click and it centers everything. And so it's a racing lane, so you don't need a big curve. You just need to get a little bit of air. You need some distance off of it. So middle mouse click, and then let's do that again because that wasn't enough. So there we go, slight curve, looks pretty good. The middle can use it a little bit different. Alright, so from here you have your first jump, and so that's your first angle, and that's the beginning of the racing ramp. And so my jumps, you'll notice that I highlight the ends and I press E and I go out a little bit and then go up just a tad bit and then press E and then go on to the tabletop section, and that just gives it a lot better curve to a good transition I guess you could say. And so get how tabletop, however long or short you want it, and then I press 7, highlight these two because they're touching the ground. That's pretty important. And drag it to wherever, how steep you want it. So when I get to this part, I highlight both of these, press E, and just try to match the other side. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, it's just a little bit of attention to detail. And then highlight all 4 verts and press F. So we go back to this view, and the other side of the racing ramp is pretty steep. Now they're doing endos, whatever you want to call it, with it. So Control R again, and then zoom to 5, right click, and then they're all even, and then you just make your ramp. This one's pretty steep, but I mean, it's just a tutorial. Again, you can do whatever you want. So I'm just gonna make it. So yeah, let's say looks like a freaking backflip ramp. But all right, that's your steepness, and then that's your long side. It's pretty good for a racing ramp. And then go to 7, and then just to give you a good idea, press L for the ramp and L for the plane, and you project from bounds, and go over here and highlight your dirt again, and that will spread your dirt evenly along the ramp. So it looks pretty good. Everything looks to be okay. And there's 2 different ways you can go throughout doing the sides. And another is like, alright, there's actually 3 different ways, but let's do this. I'm going to Shift D this whole ramp and move it this way. So let's say this is your next obstacle, usually like a step up or something, whatever you want it to be. Alright, so you always do squares, or you can even get this triangles when everything gets really tricky. But everything matches 5 to 5. I'll just do squares. It looks good. It's easy. Good transition. So F, and then do this. F, 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 F. So just make all these faces. I'll skip the whole section there. F. Excuse me, I'm coming down with a cold, so I'll keep sniffling. F, F. This one's going to be pretty long, I feel like. So that's your good transition to another ramp. And again, it won't be that, but I mean, just look how smooth everything comes out. And so I guess for the 2 different ways, now if it's not connected to another ramp, I'll show you all on both of these. So the first one, it really depends on your preference. I use both. I never stick to one. This one is the less detailed, I guess you can say, of the 2. But just the top part, I just make it straight with this. So that's pretty on. Guessed it pretty dead even. And so that's the straight section. And so for all the curved sections of your ramp, I just start from the bottom and get the 2 verts and highlight the single vert at the bottom and just press F. And I go throughout the whole ramp like that. So C, middle mouse click, click, F, middle mouse click, click, F, middle mouse click, click, F, and so on and so forth for the whole jump. And even these down here. And then that's basically how you do it. And I mean, it'll give you a nice little curve to it. And then you can even, when it comes down to this, Control R, scale it down to 2, right click, it's 3 for this view, and just give it a little bit of an arch. I mean, sometimes it'll come down, but if you get into this, that's when it gets tricky, and you have to highlight this, delete the faces, and this is gonna be really fast, and this is kind of difficult, but I gotta get through this. It's gonna be a long tutorial, but you can just do it like I said. But if you want to add more detail, you can do this, and then this is where triangles come into play. Connect these triangles, but then you connect these 4 faces, and then these 4 faces, and then I have to do 1 more on each side. So if you want to add some detail with that middle, then this gets down into it. Still gives you that nice curve on this side and gives you a curve right here. And so yeah, that's first. Pretty easy. It looks good, even especially when you get into smoothing it out and then beveling it. So yeah, there's your one option of going through a ramp, and this is the second option. This one's a little bit more time consuming. It's worth it in the end, I would say, but yeah, this one's time consuming. So what I'm going to do is E to extrude, and just going to go down this whole line and try to line up each of these verts. So I'm going to fast forward it now, and then I'll be back to you in a second when I'm done with all this. Alright, so got all this. As you can see, each vert tries to line up with the counterpart. Now it's not going to be perfect. So from here, what you're going to do is highlight 4 of these and click F to make a face, and then do all that for each one. Now they're going to be a little bit off. No one's perfect, but once all these faces are made, you can kind of go through it and try to line it up as best as possible. It doesn't really matter that much for it to be dead on. It doesn't have to be dead on no matter what, but just close enough, like lined up. I mean, pretty much matters. Oops, messed up there. Oh, Control Z is another good shortcut key to delete something you made a mistake on. And so, go up to here. You know, of course I'd put more detail into this, but it's just a tutorial, and this one's going to be pretty long. So, you can see, if they're straight, they'll be straight. If they're curved, they'll have a curve to it. But, so these aren't going to be perfect. I'm trying to hurry. But they'll be close enough for me to get my point across. And I mean, this tutorial being long, it'll be worth it. So, see some good tracks out there. I feel like not enough people make tracks nowadays. Everyone's on the trucks. And what's a good truck if you can't drive it on a good map? Alright, so everything's lined up. And everything touches the ground. So you see that. And so what I do from here is I Control R, and then I'll do 2, maybe 3. It's rare I do 3, but I always do 2. And then make it like that. So that gives you a little bit more options. So you press 3, and I just go down here. Again, this is going to be steep, and go through it out different ways. And normally I'd make it longer, but I'm kind of rushing. So just go down and make a curve all the way down. Just deleting vert after vert. And then these last 2 are going to be pretty steep. Again, I would do it longer, at the side longer, if I was making a track. But just time. And so now you get a nice smooth ramp throughout this whole section. And then what I do for the edges is I delete the edge vert, and then I make a face with this triangle, and I'll take these verts and line it close up to the triangle to where it's a little 45-degree angle, and then take this one like that and take this one like that, and it kind of makes a little curve, and then it looks good when exporting, when texturing. And then these long sides are a little bit trickier, but not really. This might look a little bit uglier. Can't go as steep, so that's basically what you do for the long edges, and it gives it a nice curve. So you can really hit that sideways all you want. You can hit it with this one too, but this one's a really just straight edge, and this one just looks a lot more realistic, and I like it a lot better. So go to tab, L, U, project from view bounds, highlight from down here, your dirt, boom. So let's say this is my track. Alright, everything's done. So highlight everything, click W, and shade smooth. So what that will do is give it a nice smooth shade. So that's smooth, and that's not smooth. So I mean, there's a little bit difference, but there's really a lot when it comes down to it. And so let's do that. Really, you need a bevel first, but I just want to show you that because not everyone bevels. So if you're gonna bevel, don't shade smooth. I can't even say it. Shade smooth yet. Press Control B, and what I do is hold the Shift button because it could get all whack, and then just do a nice bevel. And you see right here, some things could overlap, and that's where you gotta zoom in and get in it and fix it all. But I'm not gonna do that for this because it's not worth it. See, like this whole section right here, I just gotta get in there and just combine some verts and get everything. So I'll combine a vert since y'all don't know that shortcut key. So click 2 or more verts, Alt M, and then you could either click at the first vert you selected, at the last vert you selected, at the center of the 2, or at the cursor. Collapse, no one ever uses. So Alt M, and let's just do at center, and then boom, that side of the black gets away. And then I don't even know where this goes. It's just in the middle of nowhere. So I'm gonna select this one, highlight them all, and then at first, and then bam. Highlight these 2, Alt M, at center, and that ramp. And then that's the difference. This ramp looks a lot better than this one, just by combining a few verts, because beveling can get out of hand. And so we're gonna highlight it all. So let's say you beveled, got all your mistakes out, highlight everything, then click Shade Smooth, and you got a nice smooth ramp once everything's done. And I mean, it really looks nice. And then that's your difference from this side, and this side over here once it's shaded. And you got imperfections over here, which you fix. So there's your ramp, and that's pretty much it. And let's say the car's kind of disappeared under this ramp. So let's click, left click this car, bring it up. So let's say you're just adding a car to this ramp. Alright, that's about centered right there. So that looks pretty good. And so that's basically ramp making. So just remember, there's two different ways to do the sides. Either this left side right here, or this right side, I should say, I can make it left and right. This left side right here, or this right side. Again, look how beveling makes everything all screwed up. But I mean, that's just what you gotta work with, and you gotta fix the beveling mistakes. So left or right side of your options, really, for the left, and then feel free to make your own. I mean, the right side, I feel like I kind of came up with by myself, but the left side was pretty obvious. And so, yeah, choose what you want to do. And beveling is really kind of getting yourself into some type of pickle, I would say loosely, because look at all the verts it creates. So I would just choose wisely on what you want to do. Test it. You can always Control Z to undo your bevel, and then your ramp could just be shade smooth, and then it looked good just like that. But this just gives it just that extra bit of detail. Again, more verts, but sometimes it's worth it. And so that's pretty much it. I covered how to get a car in game, how to crush a car, move a car around, created jumps, and that's pretty much all I wanted to go over this part.
Alright, so as I was editing the video, I realized I never showed you how to get a stadium together. So it's going to be real quick, because it's already like a 20-minute video. So let's say you went to Sim Monsters and downloaded Max D Man's Superdome. So it's just like a car. First delete everything unless it's scratched, don't delete that. File, append, track making, stadiums, ones, Superdome, .blend, object again, highlight everything, and then append from library, and then from there it just comes up. It should be already textured and everything. So everything's good, and then you gotta create your own floor, whatever you want to do from there. But that's how you do it. And then if you want more, and let's go to Silverdome. Oops. Object. Two stadiums and one. But yeah, that's it. And then even if you can even do it a track around that one. Well, like if you already build a track and then add this later. Sometimes what I do, sometimes not. Really. Or you can just open that .blend file up right from the start. Either way, it's up to you. But that's how you append it and put it in after you make a track.
Next part will be adding the materials to the objects themselves in Blender, and then I'm going to go over what I use to paint these jumps in Paint.net. So stay tuned for part 3. This is part 2, and hope you enjoyed. Again, any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Sorry, my brain's all messed up. Alright, see you.